It's Rick without the K. James presents In My Opinion Podcast.
Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, as well as the notification bell. Thank you for watching.
Well, what advice do you got for a bitter comedian that hasn't made it yet and feels
Why you gotta look at me?
feels like
hey,
the
man.
world owes him something?
No.
Well, no, but I was that guy too, man. I mean, you know, here I was, literally the funniest dude. I mean, I was getting standing ovations in the OR at the Comedy Store. Nobody was.
Wow.
And I was. And yet I had no specials.
What year did you start at the Comedy Store?
04.
04.
Here I am. I'm murdering. Not only am I murdering, I'm having older comics like Jeff Ross and Chris Rock and all these guys going, holy shit!
I always like to
kill.
know what people's class of comedians they started with, like that.
So
that
I'm
3
kinda-
or 4 years when
I'm
you
like,
got to LA. Who was there?
It was like Bert Kreischer, Tom Segura, Sebastian Maniscalco, Brett Ernst, John Caparillo.
Hitters.
You know, all those guys, Steve Renazizi, all those guys were just kind of the young
Just
guys
touching
trying
down.
to get into the Comedy Store, you know, and I'm friends with all those guys.
Because that was right around the time the Comedy Store was kind of dying down for a little bit.
It was
right?
dead. It was fucking dead.
It was
It was-
barely in
It was
limbo
dead.
there, right?
It's fucking
So-
dead. But I also say that there is going to be a big gap in comedy because, you know, the Comedy Store that we were going up at, the OR was a third full. We're fucking scrapping it out. No laughs.
And that's
now,
on weekends as well?
every fucking day.
Every day. Okay.
I mean, it was fucking rough. Sam Tripoli, you know, so we were, Whitney Cummings, Chris D'Elia. I mean, we were learning to fucking scrap it out in the shittiest of shitty situations. And now these young comics, number one, they're not getting stage time because all the big dogs are getting stage time now at the Comedy Store when they weren't there before. And now there's no spots for them. And now if they do get spots, it's in front of paid, really excited people.
Right.
And you don't get good unless you're scrapping it out. You don't get good unless you're doing
And
shitty
I
shows.
guess I'm asking that because I lived in LA 2004, 2005, 2006, and then we finally moved up here. But we were stationed down in LA. My ex-wife at the time worked at MEPS, right? So that was right around the same time, I want to say, Dane Cook was about to drop his Retaliation CD.
Yeah,
so
no,
I
it was-
remember going to the Laugh Factory one night, and it was, you know, it was an hour and a half wait just to get in.
Oh, yeah. Well, I got
You
here
know.
at the end of Dublin's when Dublin's was a big deal. I don't know if you guys remember Dublin's, but, dude, Dublin's Tuesday night was the fucking spot. And Dane Cook would close it out every night. And Timberlake and Christina Aguilera. I mean,
Wow.
every star you could imagine, that was the thing. And it was a huge Tuesday night deal. And I got to get on that stage thanks to my friend Ahmed. And Jay Davis ran that room. But yeah, so Dane Cook was like on the verge back then of just becoming the biggest star in the world, right? And it was cool to watch. And I hate that people hate on Dane Cook, man. I mean, he's a
Well,
very...
he just dropped a special last
Yeah,
week.
he's a very
so-
talented dude, man, and he was always nice to me,
Right.
so-
you know. So I don't
I
know
bring
where
it up
that-
because, like I said, to hear that Comedy Store was dying down, Laugh Factory was popping, it looked like, at that time. And it looked like, unfortunately, I didn't start comedy until 2009. And I was telling your road guy, Tim, your road manager, I was telling him, I said, I lived in Virginia before that. We were stationed in Virginia for about 4 years. And I would go to an open mic every Tuesday. And I'd go with friends, and my friends would be like, are you going to go up? And I'd be like, no, not yet. And then I moved to LA in 2004. And I was like, okay, maybe. And then I started doing slam poetry. That's where me and Jay Rich have in common. Like, he does slam poetry too. And down there, it was just a different... And during that time, it was Def Poetry Jam on. So, like,
It's huge.
so every poet I would see in LA, and I'd be like, oh, that's NQ. Oh, that's... And so I'd go to these poetry slams, and it'd get me hyped up. Moved up here, got divorced, had extra time, and that's how I started doing stand-up. And then I realized, I said, the difference between poetry, and I don't know if you can chime in on this, is with poems, you'll do a shitty poem and people will clap. And they'll be like, oh, that's great. With comedy,
You're expressing your mind.
Yeah, you
That's
know if you wrote a shitty joke that
Right.
moment.
Yeah,
Like,
because you don't get the instant gratification from the laugh, right?
You
So
know,
right
right?
away.
But it's funny you say that. So when I got to LA, I go, okay, you got the Comedy Store here, you got the Laugh Factory here, you got the Improv here. Improv was really easy to hang out, and the shows were the crowds were full. Same with Laugh Factory. I went to the Comedy Store, and I go, I don't. Comics make a bad habit of taking the path of least resistance, right? So all the comics that were like, man, the Comedy Store fucking sucks. And I was like, yes, it does. But I'm going to fucking kill there. I am going to find out how to fucking... Because there's guys in that room that make it work. So how come they can make it work and I can't?
Right.
So I always took the harder path. And I think that in the long run, it ended up helping me out. And I think those comics that, well, I don't go over there. Because fuck that.
and
You know what I mean?
who was running rooms at that time? Because Fat Tuesdays was just about over, right?
Yep. Well,
and then you said Med was running Dublin.
Him and Jay
Yeah.
Davis were running Dublin. So then the Comedy Store was ran by Tommy, right? Back then, Tommy was running the Comedy Store. And then the Improv was always like a different manager coming through. And the Improv, if you wanted to kill and feel good about yourself, go to the fucking Improv. You want to kill and feel good about yourself, go to the Ha-Ha. Go to the Laugh Factory. I didn't want that.
Right.
I wanted, because I was on the road in front of sold audiences, killing. And then I remember walking to the Comedy Store, getting my spot, and I fucking ate. It wasn't good. And I'm like, maybe I'm not that good. And I go, I better fucking get good here. So, man, I was like, I'm going to get my name on this wall.
Was Mitzi still around at all?
Yeah, Mitzi would come by, and she'd kind of crawl in. And, I got passed by Mitzi. I was one of the last ones to actually get passed by her.
And I asked that because she really liked Ned, right? And then you ended up working with Carlos.
Yeah,
Mencia,
I did.
right?
And she, I will say that all the celebrities I do know, all the celebrities I'm friends with, all the celebrities that I've met, there's only been 2 times that I've been starstruck. Mitzi was one of them. And Mitzi would, the feeling and everybody, Mitzi's coming, Mitzi, and then the car would pull up, and the feeling that everybody got when she showed up, and oh, you're a Mexican. I like that. We need some Mexicans, And she'd talk to me, and I would get tongue-tied, and I would get uncomfortable. Yes, ma'am. And, because there was this aura about her. But, again, my whole goal was I'm going to take a blue-collar approach to stand-up. So I'm going to do the hardest of the hard rooms.
Right.
I'm not going to go. Don't get me wrong.
How long did it take until Mitzi came around to you?
I got past within 2 years, probably.
Okay.
I had a lot to overcome. At that time, I was working on the Mind of Mencia. I was touring with Mencia. Mencia's very unpopular and very unliked. I didn't know that Mencia had a reputation of stealing jokes. I was a kid. And then when I got there, I started to learn that he had a reputation of stealing jokes. But I'm working on the Mind of Mencia. And if I lose that job, I'm going to have to get a real job. So I got to do what I got to do.
And we can't have that.
Right. And I wanted to be in the business. So, I had a lot to overcome, man. There was a lot of...
You knew that after you got to LA? And then
Yeah, because I was
shit.
on tour with him from Dallas. I was living in Dallas. I didn't know his reputation. I didn't know that he had a reputation. People didn't like him, So when I moved to town, it was a lot of, well, he's probably just like him. And, oh, that's Mencia's boy. And don't let him in because he probably steals jokes like Mencia does, So I had a lot to overcome. And my attitude was, I will overcome it. Because I will go on stage in front of you every day and show you what I do. You can watch me, and I earned my spot there. But it was really hard to overcome. But
how long until you got your name on the wall?
I think I got my name on the wall in like 08,
08.
09. So it was like 4 or 5 years.
If you would have knew the reputation beforehand, would you have still gone that direction with him? Would you have went on that tour?
I would not have. I would have done something different.
Yeah, because somebody told me once. That's what it just popped in my mind. Another old guy told me, when you go to LA, be careful who you walk through the door with.
Yeah, I didn't.
Because just like he said.
And not to sound like a victim, but I was Me Too'd basically. I was a kid, man. I mean, when I met Mencia, I was in high school. I met him in Corpus Christi. I was 18 years old. I was a senior in high school. And I asked him to let me go on stage, and he did. So here I am thinking to myself at 18, like, oh, my God, this is the dude that I saw in Def Jam. This is the dude that I saw on HBO.
Right.
Like, oh my God, I get to hang out with this guy? I didn't know anything. I was 18. And I had the attitude of, I'm going to work my ass off to stay in this business. And, you know, Mitch Hedberg would take me on the road occasionally. I got to open for Dave Attell occasionally. I was the house MC at the Addison Improv, so I got to open for everybody. And then Mencia comes up to me and says, hey, we're doing this Three Amigos tour. And it's me, Paul Rodriguez, and George Lopez. That was the first time that the toxic shit started to show its face.
Do you mind if I dive into, not the toxic shit, but Three Amigos is one of my favorite comedy hours, only because, again, I'm from El Paso.
The one that got filmed with Freddy Soto.
Yeah. Only because I'm from El Paso, and Freddy to us was like, oh, if Freddy can make it, anybody can make it.
Dude,
Freddy
Freddy was and still is my hero. And I used to hate when people would go, oh, you're kind of like Freddy Soto. And I'm like, well, he's my hero. I mean, when I met Freddy on the Three Amigos tour, so Paul,
First off, do you mind if I ask you, have you seen his Comedy Central versus the Three Amigos?
Oh, yeah.
Which one do you prefer?
Three Amigos. But
Really?
I saw that set. Yeah, I saw him work on it, create it, you know. So let me just give you some backstory. Paul, George, and Mencia couldn't get along.
Okay.
So Paul Rodriguez goes, fuck you, me and George are going to go do Latin Kings of Comedy. And then Mencia goes, well, fuck you, I'm going to continue to do the Three Amigos tour. I'm going to take Pablo Francisco
Didn't
and Freddy
Latin
Soto.
Kings come out in the 90s, though?
No.
No?
So, and again, a lot of people don't know this. Mencia was able to get Miramax to come and film Three Amigos.
Okay.
Right? Well, at the same time, Paul and George are filming Latin Kings of Comedy.
Oh.
They got distribution before Mencia did.
Where did Three Amigos
They didn't go anywhere.
Where did it
In
get
Austin.
filmed? In Austin.
Yes.
Because Latin Kings of Comedy was filmed in El Paso.
Yes. So, you know, Freddie, for me, man, I mean, we were very, very close. And I wanted to be close to him because I really admired him. And he was also a very, very sweet guy and treated me with respect. And man, he'd be like, Trevino, let's go eat dinner. Trevino, me and you drive in a car together. You know, we're very, very close. So it broke my heart when I started working with Mencia on The Mind of Mencia, and Freddie would come to me and go, hey, Steve, Ned's doing my bit on The Mind of Mencia. What the fuck? Defend me. And I would go, Freddie, I am. But I can only defend you so much without losing my job. Right. You know? I'm a 22-year-old kid at that time.
New in the business.
It seemed to me like you were playing both sides because I had just watched the Ghetto Boys interview that you did. And great interview. Any of you guys haven't seen it, watch that. And you were talking about that. And you even talked about the fact that when Ned was filming his next special and he did the Cosby joke, you went to him.
I told him.
And all the writers and was like, hey, cut that shit out.
Don't do it. It's fucking Bill Cosby's joke, you know? So
was there a part of you inside that was like, oh, he did it on stage, you dummy?
Yo, 1,000%. Dude,
we got cameras,
bro.
stupid.
It's me and several other guys in the back going, oh fuck, man, come on, right? So it was frustrating, but I was also kind of trapped, you know, because, you know, what people don't know is when I moved to LA, you know, I wasn't able to get an apartment.
Right.
So I was living in my car.
You were trying to work, man.
Yeah, I was living in my car in a Walmart parking lot. And it was like, well, fuck, what's my next move? And what do I do? And, well, Mencia's got me on the road. That's paying the bills right now. Mm-hmm. I got to do what I got to do. And then, well, I'm now writing on this TV show for Comedy Central. Hopefully that leads to something else. So I can get away from this.
First season,
First
correct?
season, yeah.
First season.
You know, it was. I had a lot to overcome, man. And I don't regret any of it because I came out, you know, I always say, doing the right thing plus time equals respect.
Boom.
I've continued to do the right thing. I've continued to work hard, and I've continued to earn it. And I think because I didn't pop early and young, I became the comedian I am today.
When did you feel like you could come off on your own?
So, you know, because I worked so hard with Mencia and because, you know, we did all those tours.
And that's where your name came up.
Yeah, so the clubs were like, yeah, we'll take Steve. You know, I was a $1,500 a week headliner forever. You know, they were like, hey, we'll take. So after season 1 of Mind of Mencia, I was able to parlay that into headlining weeks. But then, I mean, I would only have like 2 weeks a month. And then the other 2 weeks, man, I'd hustle those $50 shows, $100 shows here. And, you know, it wasn't easy.
What years were you traveling to do the Three Amigos stuff?
Three Amigos was 2001, I think.
2001.
Now, remember, in 2001, I'm 21.
I'm just trying to get a timeline because for me, like I said, for me to know, I saw Freddy Soto back then, and then all this comes about. Like if, hearing the story, you sound like you were the Guy Torrey of
I was the mediator, right?
Yeah,
I was the fucking, you know. And I would go to Ned, and you know, for example, you know, back in the day when he was at the height of Mencia Mania, he'd go to the Comedy Store and bump everybody. And I'd pull him aside and go, look, dude, you're rich. Instead of bumping everybody, why don't you go to the bartender and you tell the bartender, any comic that wants a drink while I'm on stage, it's on me. They'll love you for it. But instead, you show up, you bump everybody, you don't give a fuck, and now they hate you.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, Chris Rock doesn't do that. Chris Rock never did that. But you're doing that?
But did he also do that? And believe me, I'm not trying to defend Carlos Mencia at all, because I've also heard from other people like Eddie Griffin used to do
all the
it.
time, yeah.
And so do you think it was that culture,
there's
or
two
is
schools.
it was just who's got the bigger dick type thing?
There's two schools of comedians. There's the comedians that go, everything people did to me, I'm gonna do to them.
Oh, okay.
Then there's the other attitude of,
is that why you are? And I
1,000%. Because I'm like, I'm not going to be that guy, right? I'm not going to be the one that goes, well, it happened to me, so now it has to happen to you.
Boy, Charlie Murphy, my main man, Rick James. That's the one you think, the comedian Rick James. Get up.
I can't hear my neighbor crying, I can't breathe.
Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, as well as the notification bell. Thank you for watching.